What's the message that you take away from meeting the president? The whole wedding ceremony.
It's a good question, but I couldn't. I was wondering about that because I'm always trying to look for like the deeper side. I think that's the peril of being an 8th generation rabbi, that you kind of have that ingrained in you. And the groom's father, during the reception, actually George W. and Laura stayed for the reception, but George W. Bush and Barbara did not. I think they left after the ceremony at some point. But he thanked both of them, and he spoke very movingly about how only in America could a grandson and a great grandson of Eastern European immigrants have two former presidents at their wedding ceremony, and it just kind of sent me back to there was a letter that was very well known, at least in the Jewish community in America, that when George Washington had just elected president, and he was kind of touring the new republic, under the new Constitution, to basically, quote unquote, sell the Constitution to the people. And the Jews of Newport knew that he was going to be visiting their area, and they wrote him a letter, basically, kind of entreating him as the new leader of the republic to, basically guarantee the rights of Jews within the republic. And he wrote back a letter using a lot of the phrases that they had used, but kind of, reaffirming them. And he wrote, let's see, there it is. Happily, the government of the United States, which gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they who live under its protection should demean themselves as good citizens. And that was just like a revolutionary, idea in that world. We take it for granted, but in the world of that time, where people were first and foremost identified by religion, what do you mean bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance? What does that even mean? And he added something really cool where he kind of quoted again from their letter, but using very specific phrases. May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of the other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit down under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid. Which is, a phrase that's used in the Bible regarding the Messianic age. Scholars are pretty clear about the fact that the Founding Fathers would have been utterly shocked that we're still living under their Constitution, that the chaotic world they lived in, they hoped, the Articles of Confederation lasted, years. They hoped, at least hopefully we'll have a 50 to 75-year run on this Constitution, and that Constitution that was, amended immediately to provide, all these freedoms for people, and freedom of religion, and no established church, which was just a bizarre idea at that time, to have a country without an established church. It's something that I think, our people, specifically at the time of succession, the turning over of governments, one ruler kind of leaving and the other ruler taking over, which is usually only at time of death, I think if you pulled out one of those Newport Jews who got that letter and were impressed with it, but you would have said, hey, by the way, this is going to go on for hundreds of years, and this is going to be a land where eventually presidents are going to attend, weddings with a rabbi and Jewish blessings. I mean, even they would say, "Come on, that's already too much." But we were there all the same. So it's as the groom's father said, only in America. So it's just it's pretty extraordinary. We don't often think about it, I think, because we take it for granted. But we shouldn't. We should never take for granted the fact that we live, in such an extraordinary country. So,
do you find your identification with the Jewish story changing or diminishing as you've moved away from Judaism?
well, I would not say I've moved away from Judaism. So let me kind of correct maybe the question, if I may be so bold. Moved away from Orthodoxy. I mean, I view, and I think we've kind of talked about this in the past, I view Judaism as my civilization and my intellectual tradition, my culture, and if anything, I find myself identifying with it more. And I don't know if this is something that can fully be explained, but the idea, to me, the reading the Bible, with the understanding that it was written by our people, actually makes me feel closer to it, rather than saying, oh, this is something given by, an omnipotent being. This is something that was written by our people when they were trying to understand the world that they lived in. And when one reads between the lines and one consults archaeology and sees how our people were really formed, then that just makes me feel closer. Not to mention it makes me feel better, because if you just read it the way it's written, we as a people committed the first historical act of genocide against other peoples. But when you really consult archaeology and when you really read between the lines, you see that didn't really happen. So tends to make me feel a little better. If anybody else out there wants to insist on the genocide story because that makes them feel better, they can go for it.
How do you feel when you walk past or drive past Orthodox Jews, an Orthodox Jewish institution?
I mean, I have friends who are Orthodox Jews. I got two sisters and one brother who are Orthodox. I've got to me, and maybe it's just I've mellowed as time has passed. I don't feel like everybody needs to believe what I believe. I feel that to each his own. If there's somebody out there who is comforted by beliefs that I may not agree with, and that makes them have a happier and better life, and certainly if it makes them go out and do wonderful things on behalf of the community and behalf of other people, well, that's something that should be celebrated. I don't feel like everybody has to agree with me. I'm very clear about what I believe in, but I don't. And if somebody asks me, I'm very upfront about it. But I don't have the feeling that I need to go out and missionize, so to speak. So I mean, I judge each person, as an individual.
Are you an apostate?
Am I an apostate?
Yeah.
I'm probably not the right one to ask that question.
I know, but I mean, you've heard the word. I'm just curious. Your self-image. Would you view yourself as a Jewish apostate?
No, I don't. I wouldn't view myself as that. But I mean, certainly, if you would consult the classical Orthodox definitions of what an apostate is, possibly that definition has been expanded and elasticized to include many different people. My aunt, who's a Reconstructionist, once said that the definition of crazy is slightly more religious than I am. I think it's very true if you think about it, And I think conversely, the definition of wicked and apostate is somebody who is slightly more liberal than I am. So you got to go at Rav Kook, who wore the customary Hasidic dress, but was called by many in the ultra-Orthodox community an apostate. So